Hello everyone, welcome back to Extract the Fact. I'm your host Adam Izraelevitz. Happy Monday. So today we're launching our third topic, and I'm really excited because it's kind of a local issue in New York City, but now it's blossoming into national notoriety, and I care deeply about this topic, and I know many of my friends do as well. So I'm just going to jump into it. And today we're going to be debating the SHSAT, and should New York City high schools abolish the test, or if New York City should keep the test. And what is the SHSAT? So the SHSAT is the Specialized High Schools Admission Test. And now this is a test that a lot of 8th graders take if they want to go to a specialized high school in New York City. A specialized high school, there are 8 of them in New York City, and they cover all 5 boroughs. And essentially, you take this test, and it's divided into a math section and an English section. And when you take the test, you get a score, and that score, depending on what school you want to go to, you'll be under the cutoff or you'll be over the cutoff for that school. And if you're over the cutoff for that school, you get in, that's great. And if not, you're rejected from the school. So it's a one test only admission, and that is how these 8 high schools are run. That is a difference than every other high school in the country. Other high schools have a multitude of factors, whether that's where you live, test scores, grades, interviews, and that kind of thing. But in this, it's only a one test entrance for the high school. So now there's a debate whether New York City should keep the test as it is, or should they find an alternative method to admit students into these specialized high schools, which are kind of known in New York City as kind of the crown jewels of the public school system by many. So the crux of the problem, as detailed in an Atlantic article, which I thought was very descriptive and informative, they say there are very few Black and Latino students in the specialized schools. The three highest status schools, Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech, have Black and Latino student populations of 4%, 9%, and 13% respectively, far below the 70% in public schools citywide. What should replace the SHSAT? A system that would admit the top 7% of students at every public middle school in the city, by which the mayor's reckoning would make the collective student body at the specialized high schools roughly 45% Black and Latino. So there are two sides to this debate. One is what Mayor Bill De Blasio proposed, and he says admitting the top 7% of students at every public middle school, so that would enable 45% Black and Latino students. And the other side is that they should keep the SHSAT the way it is. And those are our two sides, so that's what we're going to be debating today. So first, I'm going to present the arguments on behalf of keeping the SHSAT. So first, what people argue is that if you ban the SHSAT, it's an inherently racist argument. So the people who argue this are also most likely against affirmative action, a topic that's being debated right now in the Supreme Court. But they argue that favoring one race over the other, and because de Blasio would implement a quota for 45% Black and Latino in the specialized high schools, establishing a racial quota is inherently racist because it's putting one race over the other over a meritocracy. And also, it is also, in particular, it is conceived as anti-Asian because Asians make up the vast majority of specialized high schools. In particular, Brooklyn Tech, Bronx Science, and Stuyvesant are dominated by Asian American students. So it is seen as anti-Asian and anti-Asian American. And a lot of people there's a misconception about when people say Asians in the specialized high schools. Many people don't consider that there's a vast array of Asians. It's not just one sect of people, it's a whole multicultural group. So there are Chinese, there are Japanese, Korean, Bengali, Indian, Pakistani, I could go on, but Asian is not just one group of people, it's made up of the entire continent. So that in and of itself, the Asian American population is in fact very diverse. It's not just one set of people, but in fact many, and that inside this Asian bracket is a very diverse coalition of people. And many people think that de Blasio has failed to recognize that, and he's kind of grouping Asians together as kind of this one breed of people that gets in over Black and Latino, gets into these high schools over Black and Latino students. In addition, according to the Huffington Post, it is actually Asian Americans that have the highest poverty rate in the city. So many people criticize De Blasio for favoring Black and Latino students because it is perceived that they have come from the worst circumstances, so they are needed the most help to get into these schools. But they argue it is in fact Asian Americans who need help as well because they have the highest poverty rate in the city. And it is a testament to their hard work and their devotion that they get into these high schools based on this meritocracy, based on this one test only solution, as opposed to establishing a racial quota like Mayor Bill De Blasio has proposed. Now, there's also a core argument that is this is kind of on the macro level, but people kind of use it to justify keeping the SHSAT. And the theory goes that meritocracy must be preserved along with academic rigor to make schools a more successful environment for a future career success. And another Atlantic article did a research on 3,000 Stuyvesant alumni, and they from their findings they said while it is important to have great teachers and a great faculty present at the high school, what's most important is the blend of students that you get, and it's the idea of killing a meritocracy in favor of a quota goes against the idea of academic rigor together to provide a stable success for the future. Now, for example, there's also another school of thought that says if it's not broken, the system, then why would you fix it? For example, Bronx Science has 8 Nobel Peace Prize winners, and that is the most out of any high school in the world. And many people point to, while there is systemic failure, that there should be more Black and Latino kids in high schools, that in specialized high schools, that should be a thing. But however, because there are 70%, and I'll get to the statistic a little later, but a New York Times article says it's 70% Black and Latino students in New York City public high schools, but why then do we have such a small percentage of them in our specialized high schools? It's actually a failure of elementary and middle schools, not pinning the problem on specialized high schools. So they say, proponents of this argument say we should fix the problem at its source. We shouldn't go directly to the high school and put a Band-Aid on the issue and funneling kids into those schools, but rather we should address the problem on the elementary school and middle school level so Black and Latino students in inner city schools are more prepared for specialized high school. So they're given test prep at an earlier age. So they have a better culture of academic success in their schools instead of just kind of at the last second establishing a quota to get them into these specialized high schools. Now, on behalf of abolishing the SHSAT, people would say, well, that is also great. Let's also fix the problem on the elementary and middle school level. But we also do need to see a huge increase in Black and Latino students in these specialized high schools. Again, there is no reason why, as the New York Times says, let me just pull up this statistic, that all New York City public high schools have a 70% before, 68% Black and Hispanic students, and right now it's at a measly 10%. So there is a clear gap there that needs to be addressed because that is not the way it's supposed to be. Now the proposed plan would get it to 45%, which is closer to the 68 that would be a stable ratio. Now people who abolished the SHSAT should say there's a cycle of poverty inside the inner city which is dominated by Black and Latino students, and specialized high schools do provide a way to escape this poverty cycle through education, and that is more useful than pumping welfare inside the inner city. Many people claim that education is the way to kind of move your social status and your economic status higher up the ladder instead of just pumping welfare as a short-term solution to society. Now in addition, and I'll put this link in the description below, but this is an editorial from the New York Times editorial board, so it's a bunch of editors coming together to write this, and they have a bunch of statistics arguing for the abolition of the test. And one is that 86 schools would receive fewer offers to New York City's public high schools, but 476 would receive more offers. So you're getting a more diverse coalition of schools, which would lead to a more diverse student body, and I like to say not just diversity of race, but diversity of thought. And I think that's really important when we're considering this debate. For example, MS54, which is 23% Black and Hispanic, right now receives 150 offers in the year of, I believe, 2016 to 2017. They received 150 specialized high school offers. And then under the new plan, they would only receive 19, because that is with De Blasio's changing of the specialized test. However, school IS61, which is 91% Black and Hispanic, right now receives fewer than 6 offers, but would see a huge increase to 45 offers under this new system. So we see kind of huge balance of power difference, and more schools would be invited into this specialized high school process. Also, the ERIC governmental study states that a single exam format is less predictive of success than grades, particularly for Black and Latino students. And it's only in New York City high schools, nowhere else in the country, that there is a one test that decides your fate on one day, that can get you in or can get you rejected from one high school. So I hope that this gave you a nice summary of the debate. There's a lot of specifics inside this debate, and I think what's really interesting about this one is now it's extending to the macro level. I see on the national news now, I see CNN and Fox News talking about this debate a lot, actually, even though it's just in New York City. It's kind of an issue that's ballooned nationwide, and it has similarities, I would say, but not completely parallel, but there are similarities to affirmative action, and that's being debated on the Supreme Court now. So I hope you guys got a good summary. Let me know if you have questions, comments. Please comment in my page below, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.